Okay, so what we're going to do is build a roof. I found out it's actually going to be a wall. Technically, it's going to be a wall, but it's going to look more like a roof along a curvilinear edge with varying heights. And we want that to follow with a certain amount of precision two different forms, top and bottom. Okay, so just as a general guide, I am going to put a model line in, and it's just going to kind of spiral in on itself like that. And I'm just going to use that as a reference point to start thinking about how this could work out. And again, this isn't, oh gosh, I would love to say this is with a incredibly high level of precision. It's not going to be using this method. I think we could probably find ways to refine it and make it very precise. But for now, it's not. But it is going to be one of those things that I think we can get it really, really close. It's just, can we create a perfect seam, this roof to another roof or this wall to another roof? No. So I think thinking of it as a clear story or as a loose connection from one roof form to the other is probably your best bet. But what I'm going to do, so I've started a custom mass, easy peasy on that. I'm going to look at it in level 1, and I'm going to make a series of reference planes that are roughly perpendicular with this piece that spirals out. Now, in certain locations, when I make the reference plane, like here at the end, I can guarantee that that is perpendicular by using object snaps, right? But in other locations, and I'm not even sure how useful that's going to actually be with reference planes, but it feels kind of nice when it does snap correctly. So as I make each one of these, I'm going to give them a number. So first one is 1. I'm going to move down a little bit. I'm going to do another one. And again, I'm clicking close to. I don't really have an object snap that's going to attach to that. But I'm going to make my second one and number it 2. And so each one of these is just that reference plane right there. Let's make another one right here. And again, roughly perpendicular. Oh, not 2. Name that one 3. 4. And 5. And just for kicks, let's do one more. I was going to take it all the way around this corner, but you know, the sharper the curve, probably the more control that I need. The more, you know, like to get around this corner, I might need to do another one here and another one here, right? So the closer together, the more I need specific definition. The closer I would put those lines together, but also I would say there's an art to how many you do, how much you let the computer handle it, and how much do we define those edges. So I've got, essentially, if I go back to level 1, I've created 6 reference planes, and on each reference plane, I'm going to start creating that guide that I want that roof to wall form to take, referencing this curve. So in your case, rather than referencing an arbitrary curve that I've drawn, you'd be referencing the top of one side of your roof that this one then connects either over or under to. Okay, so in 3D, easiest way to see it happen is in 3D. To draw these a little bit with a little bit more precision, you might either come in and I think if you do view, we will look at, I think once I build this, I think there will be a way to reference each one of those in elevation as well, which might be helpful, but let's just see how this plays out. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm under that custom mass. I want to create a spline. I don't want to do a 3-dimensional spline because each one of these is going to happen on the reference plane. So I'm going to go spline right here. So my default reference plane is level 1. I'm going to change that to work plane 1. And you can see that that's highlighted. If it's not, make sure show is on. Viewer right here, that's the panel I was thinking of. This is going to give you a little bit more of an elevation view. So when you click on viewer, that is an elevation of that reference plane. So I can draw what I want that first spline to do. So let's say that I wanted to make sure that that was happening underneath, there it is, my level 2. If that first one wants to start underneath level 2 and land at level 1, I could do something like that. So that is my first spline. I can just close that at any time. You can see that is on level, or that's on reference plane 1, drawn exactly the way I didn't want it to be, because I want it to curve down this direction. So let's try that one more time. I'm going to go to my viewer, and this time I'm going to arch that from here to level 1. Let's see if that's, yeah, there we go. And again, it's that center point. That's the part that I'm not sure how precise we can get. I suppose that we could do something. I think what we might do is sort of do something and then be able to trim that edge off, maybe. But I'm a little bit concerned about how precise you can be with that. But let's just see how it plays out with this one. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close that. I'm going to keep that active and switch to reference plane 2. Viewer, and I can sort of see that one behind me. Again, its angle has changed slightly from where I was, so it's just one of those things you want to be aware of. I can modify the height, but I can't really. I should anyway be able to select that curve. You kind of can. Double click that button though. So it's a little bit tricky to make each one of these in terms of how they reference, because it's selecting that line, but it's not projecting in the exact same way. If that makes sense. Wow, it doesn't even want to get rid of that one now. Do that with both of them. That was odd. It kind of connected both of those together. So just go back in and let's draw it right on this plane. There we go. Yeah, so I was trying to use pick lines and grab the one behind it and modify it. I'm just not sure if that's going to work very well. But let's go back to the line tool, reference plane 3. And so you can see I'm trying to make each one of these a little bit taller as they go along. Reference plane 5. Wait, that should have been reference plane 4. And this is why just sort of a simple numerical pattern works well for something like this also. You can look, the last snap that I'm doing, I'm also making sure that that last vertical snap is landing on my level 1 so that I can have some consistency there. And you can certainly set more levels up to snap vertically too as you work through this. So let's go to that, and let's go to 5. And then just tapping escape each time to drop that tool. Last one. Let's make this one shorter and coming out further. So I have this sort of piece. I'm building essentially that framework for what I want that roof to do. Okay, so from there, I can select each one of these and then click Create Form, and it's going to build that edge. From there, Finish Mass, Architecture, Wall by Face, to give that thickness. And so the key thing is that starting point and ending point. That's the parts that you're going to have to experiment with to kind of get them lined up. But I think that method's going to work really, really well in terms of building that element for you. Essentially, you're building it in section, and each of those two-dimensional splines that you're building on those reference planes are sections, and finding the right number of those so that you can kind of get it balanced out, so that you're letting the computer do as much control as it can, because it's going to give you a smoother shape, but then adding in enough control points so that you can define where it needs to go is the balance that you have to take with it. And that's going to take a little bit of trial and error. I think it's going to build that wall for you really well. And then, yeah, I would just do that. I would set that up in such a way that it's either tucking in or behind that roof that's adjacent to it, because finishing off this edge with perfection, that's going to be tricky. But allowing it to tuck one underneath the other and just making that design feature looks super cool, I think. It's a clear story.